Season 43, war number 2, and we are up against 4 Loki. This time my team will be Tigra, Future Ant-Man and Silk. I will be taking path 1 in section 1, as well as that Mangog, Zemo and Ebony Maw on the shared fights. Then for section 2 I will be taking that Jessica Jones as well as path 1. And then for the boss island I will be taking that Bishop and America Chavez there on the right side. Now I gotta say, I have been looking forward to getting to use Silk in war for a while, and I do have quite a few fights for her this time around, so this is gonna be a good one. Up first here we have a spot on the personal space regeneration node, and I'm taking this fight with Silk. Now this matchup isn't the greatest for Silk because of her 7-hit basic combos. The more hits you land, the more chances a spot has on triggering his spots and getting that untouchable, which can be a problem if you do not manage it too well. Now, that said, the actual node here is basically perfectly countered by Silk's kit, because the slow debuff reverses the opponent's healing. Now, in this case, due to the Indomitable node, the healing is not reversed, but it will be blocked completely, meaning that Silk does not have to worry about it at all. That said, the regen never has a chance to get out of hand anyways, because Silk just completely nukes this guy down. And even if she didn't, Spot's special one inflicts a buff immunity debuff on himself, meaning the regenerations simply cannot get out of hand as long as you keep baiting it. Next up we have a Korg on the Masochism Overtime node, and I'm taking this fight with Future Ant-Man. And this one is very simple. I just gotta do what I usually do, land those heavy denials and or light intercepts to remove Korg's rock stacks without taking any thorns damage, and then just spamming special 2s with the power detonation up. Just repeat that over and over until he goes down, which basically means on these section 1 nodes, that's 2 special 2s and the fight is over. Maybe even less than that, depending on how big you're boosted. I do run the full boosts here, but I don't think I was running tech boosts, which could have made the fight a little bit faster, but as we can see here, that's not necessary at all. Korg just gets completely melted. Masochism didn't trigger a single time because I didn't parry, and the power detonation never expired, so that's not a problem either. Next up we have a Mangog on the Drip Feed Placebo, Resistance is Futile, Personal Space Regeneration and Recovery nodes, and I am taking this fight with Silk. Now, instead of simply just nuking this fight down with my special 1s or special 2s, I am gonna go for heal reversal with my special 3. The slow debuff at max sig lowers the opponent's regeneration rate by 150%, as long as you keep hitting the opponent while the slow is up. So with the long stun from Silk's special 3, I can completely just corner the opponent, hit them a ton, stack up more debuffs to reverse the healing even more with the Despair Mastery, and he should just melt down due to all of those regens he gets from the node. Now at this point the fight is basically over, and the biggest issue here would have been Mangog's special 2. While Silk's auto-evade would completely avoid the whole special, for whatever reason it does still power steal, even if it doesn't make contact, so that would have made the fight longer and potentially more dangerous, as Mangog was pretty close to getting his rage mode. Then we have the good old Zemo here on the Hazard Shift Incinerate and Shock nodes. I'm taking this fight with Future Ant-Man using Odin's Shock Resistance pre-fight. And the game plan here is the same as always. I'm just getting to my special 2, throwing it while the power detonation is active, and repeating that until the fight is over. I will do my best to bait Zemo special once, and that's basically all there is to it. As long as I don't start eating full combos, there is nothing to worry about. Unless Zemo somehow decides to go completely passive, which won't happen due to the Searching Swarm forcing the opponent to be more aggressive. So essentially Future Ant-Man completely counters this fight in every single way. He handles the incinerates, the shocks with the Odin's pre-fight, the defense tactic with his attack tactic, the power gain with his power burn and power drain. Essentially, there is nothing Zemo can do as long as you don't get hit. Even then, he does have his damage cap to fall back on, so this is a pretty safe and quite a simple fight to take. Then we have an Ebony Maw on the Scared Stiff and Power Focus 2 nodes. And I swore I would never ever take this fight again with anyone. But since our usual counter for this fight is banned for this war, for whatever reason, and I'm using Silk anyways, I thought it would be a good excuse to take her in here. Now the game plan here was to just get Ebony Maw to his special 2, keep him there, if he throws it then rely on the auto evade to avoid it, and just keep throwing those 4-hit combos into heavies to keep the falter off, get to my special 2 and nuke him down with that as quickly as possible. Now a single special 2 wasn't quite enough, but a special 2 into special 1, fight is over in less than 40 seconds, Silk at basically full health. She is probably the best option for that fight. Well, if you ask me at least. Then we have a Jessica Jones on the sloped armor and buffet over time nodes, and I'm taking this fight with Silk. And this fight right here is where her utility shines very bright. Now there are two key things for this fight. Number one is the obvious slow debuff from Silk's Awaken ability completely bypasses the Unstoppable on Jessica Jones, making her quite a simple defender. The not so obvious reason is that she does not trigger the dexterity buff whenever she dexes. She has no other buffs in her kit either, so buffet, power snack, any node like that will simply never trigger unless there are nodes coming from other sources. So the buffet node simply doesn't exist here, the Unstoppable completely countered with the slow debuff, so this Jessica Jones basically does nothing at all. And just as a bonus, there is still the auto evade to deal with her specials in case you accidentally mess up a dex, as well as the health reversal, reversing the willpower healing as we see here, which is pretty potent as well. Fight goes down, Silk is still at basically full health, and she's just crushing these fights. Next up we have a Thing on the Never Back Down node, and I'm taking this fight with Tigra. I was considering using Silk, but I wasn't sure if her heavies or specials would trigger the protection due to the passive fury that she gets, so I decided to go with the safe option of just using Tigra like I usually do. And as always, the main thing to keep an eye on here is Thing's rock stacks. Even though Neutralize completely shuts down the Unstoppable, that does not mean that the fight is risk-free. You do need to manage the rock stacks properly, otherwise you can get screwed very quickly. You shouldn't ever leave Thing at 15 rock stacks at the end of your heavy chain, special or a combo. Otherwise, if he goes passive and Neutralize falls off, your next hit will trigger the Unstoppable before Neutralize triggers, which can cause a lot of problems. I am very comfortable with the fight, however. I've taken it so many times that it basically just comes naturally, so I'm not afraid of taking anything with Tigra. Then we have a Man-Thing on the buffet over time node, and I'm taking this fight with Tigra as well. Now this fight could be taken with Silk, but as I said on that Jessica Jones fight, She doesn't gain any buffs on her own, but she does still get buffs from outside sources. In this case, the pustule buffs from Man-Thing's specials. And those buffs still trigger the buffet node, which would then mean the buffs get immediately nullified and Silk would get poisoned, which is not a good thing. Neutralize, however, completely prevents the pustule buffs from triggering, meaning I have no risk of getting poisoned here, so long as I keep the neutralize up whenever he throws a special. Now that said, the buffet node does still trigger from the unblockable buff on Tigra specials, but the neutralize prevents the regen buff there. It doesn't prevent the MD trigger though, so that is something to keep an eye on. Then next up we have a bishop on the safeguard miniboss node, and I'm taking this fight with Future Ant-Man. And the game plan here is very simple. I'm just never gonna allow him to throw a special by doing 4-hit combos, then holding my own block to bait a heavy, and getting my openings that way. Then I will just keep spamming my special to you with the power detonation active, and the fight should go down pretty quickly by doing so. Or so I thought, but apparently Future Ant-Man is bugged against the safeguard node. For whatever reason, the burst damage from his specials will not bypass the safeguard node. Usually any type of damage over time or burst damage just goes right through the 1% damage cap on safeguard, but his doesn't. I can only speculate as to why, but I have no actual factual knowledge about it, so I can only guess. So the assumption is that the burst damage happens on the exact same frame as the hit damage does, so when the safeguard node would cap the hit damage, it caps anything that happens at the exact same frame, which in this case would also be the burst damage. And that is why it doesn't bypass the node. It is very unfortunate, but at the same time, knowing just how important frames are in this game to determine which abilities trigger or rather interact with what, it kinda makes sense, but I do hope that it would get fixed because, well, it's inconsistent with other burst damage abilities. Well, anyways, the fight is done. I did take a bunch of block damage, but that's completely fine. It was the final fight that I had with Future Ant-Man, so doesn't even cost me a potion. Then we have the final fight of this war, an America Chavez on the Polka Dot Power and Stunning Reflection miniboss node, and I'm taking the fight with Tigra. Game plan is to just get at least one Rupture debuff on the opponent, after which the fight is basically over. And what I mean by that is that then Polka Dot Tower would start feeding me power constantly, and I would not be in any risk of getting heavy spammed to death or dying to America Chavez's special 2, for example, because I can simply just hold my heavy, cause it to miss completely, and then I'd already have a special ready to save myself from getting punished for it. Now that she's in the corner, the fight is even easier. I just bait the special 1 over and over, cause it to miss with my heavy attack, spam my specials, rinse and repeat, fight is done, no issues at all. The advanced power boost was a bit of a waste here since I didn't actually need it, but I did use it just as a safety net to get that one rupture in case something went wrong and I couldn't land an intercept. As for the results, we did end up winning the war 17-12, and I gotta say this was probably the worst tier 1 alliance war I have seen during season in a very long time, and I can tell you right now that neither one of our alliances is happy with the result, but at the very least we did somehow manage to get the win, so I can't really complain about that. Still not happy about it though.